Greetings to postgraduate students and fellow colleagues, Ms. Makanye and Professor Mbata from College of Graduate Studies. The College of Graduate Studies welcomes all of you to the first Honors and Postgraduate Diploma Research Training Workshop for the first semester, or rather, let me say 2021, since this year we may have a super semester. A special welcome to our facilitator of today, Professor Tabane. Professor Tabane has extensive knowledge in facilitating the research training workshops, and he has been assisting College of Graduate Studies for years with the workshops at main campus and at regional service centers across South Africa. He is a registered educational psychologist, and currently he's heading is a HOD for educational psychology at the College of Education. He has a lot of accolades under his belt, including the best master's dissertation. I won't mention the year, but yeah, it's years ago. And the best PhD, that is with practical implication. So you can see that from an early age, he has been passionate about research and doing research that has practical implication to solve societal problems. So the list goes on, but I will just end on the master's and the dissertation. For today, he will address the generic components of a research proposal, and by the end of this workshop, I am confident that you will have clarity on how to go about drafting and understanding the components of a research proposal. Before I hand over to Prof, please note that this session will be recorded, and we will share the recording as well as the slides after the workshop. You have been muted automatically, and the only way that you can communicate with us is by the chat or comment function. So whenever you have questions or comments, feel free to write to us. At times, Prof might ask questions, so ensure that you type your comments and we will share them with Prof. So without wasting any time, let me hand over to Prof Tabane. Prof Tabane.
Thank you, Mr. Machila, and welcome to our honors and postgrad students. I usually say that despite what the requirements of a level, according to National Qualification Framework, that says that who should be or who is required to contribute to knowledge, that is the PhD, and then the masters are supposed to show the inclination of conducting a research, and then the honors and the PhD dips are supposed to be taught on how to conduct the research. I totally do not agree with that. I think any level can contribute to knowledge. Because of you are human beings, and you have your own reasons for conducting a research, and you have your own thinking about coming to a solution or introducing new solutions. And we see this with innovative people all over the country and all over the continent and all over the world. So you don't have to be 45, 58, 60. You know, during your PhD, hopefully you'll do your PhDs when you are 35, not 45, like some of us. You can come up with a solution for your problem, because that's what research is about. It's about coming with a solution for your problem, your specific context, your area. So I'm very happy that you are taking up this course, and I know it's a requirement for you to pass, but I hope that it will not end here. You will register. There is a master's after your honors. There is your honors after your PhD dip. I know PhD dips can go into honors, into masters. There is a PhD after your masters. So the education starts here. So now I looked at what I should cover today, and I was thinking, yo, it's quite a lot, but let's see how far we can get, and let's try to push as much as we can. As I know that with honors classes, usually what they will do, they will have a list of topics, especially in psychology area. They will have, and social work, they'll have a list of topics that you need to choose which one you want to work in. I do not know about other sections. PG Dip, they might have as well the list of topics that you need to choose. So, however, if you were conducting a research without having been given that list, but even though when you are given that list, choose a topic that is broad, right? So that you can have many elements or enough elements for you to be able to see what interests you in that particular topic. And then so that when you read it, you can now come to the focus of what your title is, right? And from that title, you can come up with a research question. And then you need to read, because literature is going to influence how you're going to go about with your research and where to focus as well in your research. So you use literature. You will have a session where you're going to go through literature search and literature making arguments from your literature with other colleagues of mine. But you use literature. The reason you have to read, you read so that you can justify your problem. You don't read and write your literature review for the sake of writing literature review. You read because you want to justify your problem. And that literature will also help you and guide you to give you a theory, because it gives you more impetus in the theory that you might select or you might have to change because of you will be informed on that particular topic and that particular way of doing that particular research. So very important, all research fields, it's conducted to answer a particular question. And then you need to have a research plan that will help you on how to answer your question and how to execute those research methods. We'll go into this at the end of the day. So the objective of this presentation is to take you through step by step on how you can formulate your initial idea on your research project, carve a title, and craft a question, and choose an appropriate research method. So I already indicated the matter of the topic and the research, and there is a difference, colleague. So from now on, as from today, you are baptized on the difference between a topic and a title. So don't mix the two anymore from now on. Topic is broad. It's about what's happening in the sphere that you are in. The discussions that are happening. It's a general field that you can consider to make an argument from. So it can be anything under the sun. It can be, a topic can be on HIV and AIDS in Mpumalanga hospitals. That's very broad, right? Because we know it's about HIV, and HIV has so many elements that you can talk to. Mpumalanga has so many districts and areas that you can focus on. And the hospitals, there are so many hospitals. So that's a topic, it's very broad. Whereas a title is specific. Like they say, there is a name of a book or a poem, a picture. It describes perfectly or clearly what you want to look into on that particular topic. Like we have titles like doctors, professors, and lords in England, and major in the army, or sir. Those are titles. However, these titles are given in a particular area, in a particular specific section as well. So now you need to think now, what is your title? Topic is broad, title is specific. For instance, if I say all women, or women in this classroom today, it's a broad topic. I'm not specific. I'm talking to what or which women, right? I'm just talking about women. But if I say all married women in this classroom are, now I'm specific. I'm talking about married women. Now the unmarried women will now sit down if I ask them to, if I ask all women to stand up. If I say all pregnant women will stand up. But if I say all pregnant women with twins, only those with twins will stand up. So now that's how title is crafted from a topic. So it is as specific as that all women with black hair will stand up because it's specific. So the adjectives just makes it further clear on what the topic and the title is. Now, when you come up with your topic, you live in a society, you have your own dealings with issues in the society. And therefore, you have a phenomena that you might want to look at, that you might want to study. What is it that interests you? What are you interested in as an individual? So even if in honors they gave you those lists, look at them and ask yourself, what is it that I'm interested in? Don't just choose a topic simply because of your friends are choosing it. What is it that is written there that I'm interested in? That phenomena that's going to speak to you when you read it, it's what your phenomena of study will be. And of course, we live in an ontological world as well, where we describe the existence. Where is this truth about this phenomena that I want to study? And then most importantly as well is, how do I get to the truth? What is my understanding of this being, of this truth? Because the way you understand the truth is not the way the other person or the next person understands it. So you can have the same title or the same topic to choose from, but you might understand it differently. And now we have the state capture. It's a phenomena of study. But where is the truth? How do you get to the truth is what is being debated. And you can just sit on one setting of judge, deputy justice's sitting and see how people understand the truth and how they explain the truth and where they say the truth is, because that's a phenomena. And your own analysis and your of what is happening takes a role. And then you have your own values as well. And these values, either positive or negative, they influence how you see the truth in that topic of yours. So please remember this. You are a full, whole human being. You have your own interest, the phenomena. You have the way of getting to the truth or where the truth is, ontology. And you have your own analytics of how to understand this truth, epistemology. And you have your own values that helps you to, or that drives or shapes you in understanding where the truth is about your topic. Because we are doing research to find the truth, colleagues. We are doing research to find the truth, to find that answer. So, please, topic, general theme, critical issue for you, what is bothering you, what is happening outside you and your community. And whatever it is happening for you to select that particular topic, it can be personal. You know, you selected that particular topic because of it's of interest to you. Because of the police in your area are not answering calls immediately. The ambulances, you call it at 3 o'clock, it only arrives at 9 o'clock in the evening. That's your personal interest in that particular topic. What keeps ambulances emergency? What is emergency response in that if they come so late? So what is bothering you in your community? And again, very importantly, read. So literature can also shape you into coming up with your research topic. When you read. you read something in the newspaper and you're like, oh, I've never thought of that, you know? Now let me go and research this. So it was never your personal reason. You never thought of it, doesn't bother you, but you just read it in the newspaper. You read it somewhere in a scientific book or another person's article or whatever. And then you just say, oh, okay, let me go and research this. Right? Or you listened to someone saying something somewhere in a conference, or me, when I'm giving this class, I'm going to say something, you're like, oh, I've never thought of that. So you heard somebody saying that. So therefore you go and you research it. Right. Make sure that you are very clear when you choose that title. Where is it in your field? What is the specific discipline, specialization? Because of when you say it's in the field of education, you see how education can be broad. Because in education, we also have technology education, but that's a specific of education. With educational management, we have educational psychology, inclusive education. So where in that discipline, in that field? So you break it down, like what is the interest that you have in that technology teacher education? So in this example, it's about development. Let me make sure my phones are on silent before Tony calls me. So what is the concentration in that? Meaning your samples now. No, it's grade 7 teachers. What focus now do you have in that field? No, about pedagogy, pedagogical knowledge, or about whatever geography, volcanoes. You know, then you craft a title. So here's an example: the contribution of senior phase technology teachers' pedagogical content knowledge towards learners' attitudes towards technology in Tshwane district. From your engagement with what I'm interested in, you can come up with a title. We'll get into this later on. So start with reasons for conducting your research. So they gave you a topic, it's fine. They gave you a list. When you select that list, ask yourself, well, what is the reason for me for choosing this? The reason is not for you to get a mark when you conduct research, you know? So what is your research problem? Some call it, they might say you must write your research problem. Some might say you must write a research statement or problem statement. Some say you must write your, it doesn't matter what they call it. At the end of the day, it's about what is it that you're trying to investigate and prove or answer. So don't be sidelined by all this fancy talk about what, it's about what is your question at the end of the day. If they ask you, you must write a question in a statement format, then write it in a statement format. It must be a question, write in a question format. Just don't be phased. Your topic will not be fully focused if you not rephrase your research problem or hypothesis. So look at what is your problem? What are the exits? What are the important things that you need to focus on in your research? What is the foundation of your problem? Where is this happening, right? And then try to introduce this reader to the importance of what your problem is. When you do research, you must think like a woman. You know, women will ask you, what is your problem? You know, Pila, what's your problem? That's your research problem. What is your problem? So we all know the 6 men: why, who, what, how, when, and where. These are your guidelines, key guidelines in helping you to shape your research problem. What is it that you want to discover or answer? Why do you want to do it? When are you going to do this investigation? Where? Right? And who are your respondents or participants? So research problem. What is your puzzle? What is it that you want to investigate? So like I repeat this because of I know that in honors and PG they might give you topics to select from. And remember, from those topics, whatever those sentences are, come up with your title and ask yourself, well, what is my problem here? Not what is the problem here, because once you distance yourself from that research problem, it will not be your problem. So internalize the problem. So you need to learn about your problem. What is already known about this problem? How has this problem evolved? Who is affected by this problem? What are the unique prevailing circumstances surrounding this problem or this study? Identify the problem and the location of this problem. When you come up with your research problem, very important is also link your research problem with the purpose of your study. Because the moment you know why you're doing the study, you'll be able to come up with a problem. So what is the purpose of your study? And there are three basic elements for you to craft your research problem. Remember, we talked about your phenomena of study. What is it that you want to study about your community? What is the phenomenon that you want to look into, right? And who are going to be people who are going to ask questions for you to be able to come up to the answer of this phenomenon? And where are these people? And preferably, when you write this purpose, come up with your methodology as well. So now, Creswell, he has the latest book. He does give you a formula on how to write your problem. So the moment they've given you that topic and you came up with your title, then you are thinking yourself and questioning yourself, what is my problem? And why am I conducting this study? You write it, the next section, you write this. The purpose of my study is. And then the example here is the purpose of my qualitative study will be to do what? To explore, to discover whatever the central phenomenon of study is, for which participants and where for the site. Here is an example. The purpose of this qualitative study will be to explore experiences of high school principals in terms of school management in rural settings. That's the purpose of my study, because I'm interested in these principals. I just watched TV, and the Minister of Basic Education is talking about rural schools that they are not performing, and then she is saying that it is a matter of the management. You know, the principals are not managing. The teachers are doing as they please, and I'm like, I've listened, I've heard. Okay, it's not my personal experience. It's not something that I've read. I've heard the minister say that, or maybe I read it in the newspaper. I'm like, oh, I wonder what are the experiences of the high school principals in rural areas, because of that's what the minister said. They are not performing. Now I wonder what are the experiences. That's where my topic came from. All right. And then I'm like, but I'm doing this research to get to what? What is the aim? I'm doing this research to get to what? Because I want to highlight the factors that affect these principles in their management, daily practices. Right? So that's the purpose of your study. Now, after you have crafted that, you need to come with your question. Now, this is when you're now becoming more focused. The moment you know why you're doing this study, you have written your purpose of your study and your aim. Now you can say, okay, fine, now let me ask my question. And very important, the questions flow from that statement that you have written, because you must have central phenomena or the central issue. You must indicate your participants in your question, and you must indicate where is the study going to be conducted. And there is an example. What are high school principals, school management experiences in rural settings? As you can see, it is exactly as my purpose. And you can see that I took my question from the experiences and I put a question indicator. What are the experiences of high school principals? So When you craft your question, remember there's high order level questions, and preferably you must ask high order level questions. How and why and what, right? We do not, in research, we don't ask low level questions, or do, you know, or is there. The reason is they already have an answer, yes or no. Remember, research is about researching, re-looking, searching, research. We search. So if you ask a question that has a yes or no, where is the searching? Because the answer is already given. Is there already? Do you like ice cream? Yes. Do you like Njimutser? Yes. Do you like Jacob Zuma? Okay, you will answer that on the chat box. Okay. Do you like? I mean, it's yes or no, whether you like it or not. But if you ask, what is it that you do not like about ice cream, or what kind of ice cream do you like? Why do you like ice cream? It's a different question altogether, because it asks you to search and give reasons. Sub questions as well must be like that as well. High order. I'm going to go quickly through this because you're going, as Mr. Machida indicated, this is recorded. You can go through it again, and then you will get this as well. There's a formula and guidelines as well of asking your qualitative research. Again, it's a repetition of what I said earlier on, general question and all that. But what is most important here is that when you ask a qualitative research, you ask of what questions, all right? Central phenomenon of study, participants, and site. How and what, like I was saying, you don't ask why for qualitative research, because in qualitative research, the moment you ask why, you are changing the implications of your question, because why indicates an effect, and that effect should be able to be measured. Right? Like I said, why do you like ice cream? We can measure, we can say, I like it because of it keeps me cool, and then we can measure your coolness and all that. But when I say how, and then you say it makes me feel good, there's a difficulty in measuring how feel good is. But with cool, I can put a temperature in, a thermometer in under your armpit, and to measure coolness. The central phenomena, and then the participants as well. So there are a few examples there of qualitative questions. And then always remember, you see, I keep on repeating same thing so that I can drill it. Central phenomena of study, the participants and site. They must be there in your reasons for doing this study, the purpose. They must be there in your research question. For quantitative, we ask how, what, and why. And there are examples there as well. And there's also indication if it's a quantitative study, if it's about multiple relations or multiple variables, you need to have some adjoining word there, or relate. You must use the word, how does one and what relate? How does what and what A and B compare? Right? And there are a few scripts to give you examples there as well. How does what relate? If it's a relationship, it's about comparison, you have to have that and all that. In your sampling of your participants, we already said in your research question, you told us central phenomena, you told us the participants. Do you see? There's no surprise here. There's no hidden agenda here in research. What you have written flows. We usually say there's a thin a thread line that goes through. It shows. So when you come to your sampling, we already know who your participants are, because remember, who are the participants? Who are the participants? High school principals. Remember this, the proposed statement, and you remember the question. What are high school principals? So you already know who are the participants when you go into sampling. The only thing that needs you to do now is to highlight and to go deeper into your participants. If you say high school principals, it means you mean both men and female. You can decide to say female participants, female high school principals. You can decide to say black female, black male. That's how specific you can be when you do research. And when somebody comes and asks you about black male, you say, no, but I'm not interested in black males. I'm interested in black females or white females. That's why my topic and my title and my research question is focusing on. So now that's how you're selecting those participants. It can be random, it can be purposeful. Random is you just saying, I'm just going to send it to all principals, like I said now, high school principals of that particular area. Or you can say, no, I want high school principals who've been there for 10 years. Now that's purposeful. There's a purpose for selecting only the ones with 10 years experience. There's a purpose for only selecting the females and not the males. That's how you can select that. Quantitative as well has its own sampling methods of stratified sampling method that no, I'm only going to take those ones who are how many kilometers apart from each other. So there are different methods that you need to read in terms for your study to select, to tell us why you're selecting those particular participants, right? And of course, the number of participants as well. And the site you already indicated, where is this study going to be conducted? And the reason for making that place a research site. You cannot say your study is in rural settings and you select a Soweto school or a Mamelodi school. There is my repetition again. So the purpose, research question, and sampling. Remember, central phenomenon of study, your participants, and your research site. Get this clear. There is that purpose statement of mine. The purpose of this qualitative study will be to explore experiences of high school principals in terms of school management in rural setting. Remember the 6 honest men, who, why, where, and how? Keep that in mind. So what is my question? What are the experiences of high school principals in terms of school management in rural settings? Who? They are there. High school principals. What? The phenomenon of study? School management. How? I'm going to use qualitative study. And where? Rural setting. Do you see how easy this is? So this is just a slide that will indicate to you, if you choose a particular research methodology, what type of sampling and the size of that sample should be. So coming to the aim of your study. Versus the objectives of your study. Are these two synonyms? I know people will use them interchangeably and say, but the aim of my study. And you say, what's the objective? I say, no, but that's the objective. No, it's two different things, colleagues. This is another fire. Fire. This is it. I don't know if Mr. Machila has that song. You will play it next time. You play this song when I say fire, then you say fire. So aim is a broad statement. That indicates the desired outcome or the intention of the study. They indicate aspiration. An objective, it marks an achievement, a milestone. You know, some call it the sub-aims, that's fine, or sub-goals, because some call aims goals. But it's about how you are going to reach your ultimate aim. So here's a example that I like to use as a joke. If your aim is to get married in 2025, it's not very far. Huh? So if you're not married now and you should be you are in the marriage age, and you really want to get married, so now what must you do? Because your aim is to get married in 2025. So what are the steps, the objectives? What are the steps, objectives that you need to take to get to your aim? Your aim is to get married in 2025. I'm sure I can. Mr. Majila will read the answers later in terms of what did you say, right? Some of you've written. I would suggest, I don't know, save money to be able to pay lobola if you are a man, or if you are a woman, because of right now we are living in a fluid times. You might have written, I don't know, get a new hairstyle. I don't know. Shave your head. I don't know. Make yourself presentable. I don't know what that means. Go out more. Because of if you go out more, you'll meet people. I don't know. Some have written go to church and meet people. Some say go to the funeral. You know, or go to the weddings. I don't know what are the steps, but at the end of the day, whatever steps you take, they must bring you to the aim of getting married in 2025. So now let's just get serious and stop playing. So if you want to obtain your degree, your PhD in 2030, now that you are on your honors, in other words, 2030 actually is too far for you guys in honors, right? You can attain your, it's 2021 now, you can still attain your PhDs if you're doing honors and PhD dip this year. You can still attain it in 2025, 2026, if not 4, in terms of your focus. How focused are you? So what are the objectives of obtaining your doctorate? Read on the topic of interest, as we said, make search for study material, acquire relevant material, make time to read, because if you can acquire the material and they can be relevant, but you don't make time to read them. So you have books all over. I don't know how many of us can raise their hands when it comes to this, that you went to the library, you went to the internet, you photocopied, you printed relevant material, but you never made time to read them. You see, objective is a step. Register with UNISA. So, but for you to register with UNISA, you must save money. You see what's happening with NFSAS. Funda Lishaka, or maybe get a bursary somewhere. But you need to save money. Then after you have saved money, if you do have that money in your pocket does not register you at UNISA. So if you don't have data on your phone, you need to go to the internet cafe to go and register. But when you get to the internet cafe, you don't just go there and sit on the internet cafe and then say to the computer or to the gentleman that I want to register. No, they must purchase airtime to be able to go online. And so now all these are steps finally to get you to get your doctoral degree in 2030. So the aim is broad, objectives are steps. In your research, some would say that have that research question and have your sub questions, because sub questions are objectives to the research, to the main research. So Aims can be a phase in a research. Objective is how an aim is attained. Objectives indicate who is going to do the aim, what are the costs to achieve the aim, and what are the tools needed to attain the aim. Simply put, an objective is important to indicate fulfillment of the aim. By focusing on, remember, your honest men, honest women, who, how, when, where, and why. It should be concise, both aim and objective, interrelated, be realistic, indicators of how you are going to approach your literature. They should not be too vague, too ambitious. You know, the aim is to understand whatever, or get to understand how President Cyril Ramaphosa makes a, I don't know what, right? And then where are you going? Then the person that you need to interview is the president himself. Honestly, unless if he's your uncle, but even then, if he's your uncle, he needs to be sampled properly. They must not repeat each other in different terms, that is. There must just not be a list. When you put in research, whatever you put down, it must be answered. Eh? Whatever you put down, it must be answered in terms of your research question, in terms of your reasons. Remember when you said the aim of the study is to, rather the purpose of the study was to do blah, blah, blah with the aim of, so that purpose must be answered. That aim must be answered. The research question must be answered. The research sub-questions must be answered. So if you put down now, the objectives must be answered, and that's how you are marked. They must not contradict the method. You cannot say that the aim of the study is to talk to two teachers on 1, 2, 3, 4, or two nurses who were infected with COVID-19 at the beginning of COVID announcement. Two, you said two, and then in your method you tell us about quantitative study. I mean, honestly, what quantitative study is there with two nurses? It's not. Right? So remember that statement that you had, the purpose of my study is to do 1, 2, 3, 4 with the aim of bringing, remember I said with the aim of bringing to the fore the contextual factors that affect those high school principals. Now, what are the objectives? How am I going to bring to the fore? So I might ask, what are the highest qualifications of the principals? Because if I know what are the highest qualifications, I now understand the way those principals do things. Now they help me to get to my aim, which helps me to answer my question. What are the high school principals' experiences, right? What are their management training? Because some principals, they don't have management training. And if I know if they have any management training, now I can understand how they're doing and why they're doing things the way they're doing. What about the staff complement? Because the minister is saying the principals, the rural schools are failing, they're not producing in matric because the high school principal rural settings are not doing proper management. But you might find, no, the high school principals, they have good management. But what about the staff complement? What about their qualifications? How many staff complements do they have? So all these questions, now they ask me, they help me to be able to answer my aim, because those are the steps to go to my aim, and the aim fulfills my question, and my question fulfills my purpose of my study. And that purpose of my study speaks to my research title. Then you have to come up with your design, your research design. Research design, they say it's a blueprint of how you're going to conduct, it's a map of how you're going to conduct your research. It's a framework, procedures of how you're going to conduct or collect your data, analyze it, and make the reporting. If you build a house, okay, when you're going to build your house, not if, when you're going to build your house or your houses, you're going to come up with a plan. You're going to sit down and draft your plan. And you're going to say, this is where the bathroom is going to be, this is where the bedroom is going to be. I want this bedroom to be this big, and I want a sanitary room or toilet in this particular floor, very far from the kitchen, whatever it is that you're going to say. You see, even hotels, they have plans. And in the hotel, they tell you that this is your room where you see the red dot within those rooms. And they tell you that in case of fire, this is the nearest exit there where you must go. They give you the layout of the hotel, the rooms in that floor. They tell you where your room is. And they're saying, in case of an emergency, this is the first exit or your nearest exit. COVID-19, we are not going to Mokelneck anymore, but this is the UNISA Mokelneck campus map. And even with this map, it tells you where you are. It says you are here. And it gives you different colors for buildings. What are you looking for? What buildings do you want? It's a simple research question. And you say, no, I want the red building because that's where Professor Tabane and other beautiful people are, you know? And then therefore, you follow the trade. They're giving you, for you to go to that red building, this is how you must go. You don't go to the brown building. That's where Mr. Machila is, right? You want to go to the red building. Red is hot, red is fire, red is good. Mr. Machila, I don't know why your building is brown, but anyway, let's leave the building that looks like mud alone, okay? Let's just continue with research. So now, what will happen if you want to come to where I am in the red building and you go to the brown building? You won't find me. What will happen if there's an emergency and you need to exit to the nearest exit and you decide to go to the wrong direction? You will choke. So research is like that. When you design your research, you must make sure that you follow that design thoroughly. You must make sure that you design that house thoroughly so that it does not rain in when it rains, so that it does not fall when there's an earthquake. Or you don't build it where there is swamp and then it will be over flooded. So any deviation from, that's why you call house inspectors to come and inspect your house after you build. You don't just build and go in. Well, you shouldn't do that in any way. Because of what if they tell you that your wiring is wrong? You need to fix it. So again, we talked about the epistemological views. Where is the truth? You need to consider when you do your research. Because of you cannot, your axiology, your value cannot say, for instance, in extreme example, in terms of gender-based sexual orientations, you know, and you are a very staunch believer or proponent. Hey, God has made only men and whatever, women, and they should, and then yet you say that you're going to do research on how good these people are. Honestly, what are you going to get? Because of you're going to your research is already biased, it's already tainted. Because of your research question and your axiology and your epistemology already determines. That's why you need to always keep on checking your bias. Who are your audience? Why are you writing this research? Who are you writing it for? Who's going to read it? What personal skills do you need to conduct this research? What training do you need? Like you are now having this training. Very important. I cannot overemphasize this. You know, I like to repeat things. I cannot overemphasize this, and I said it and I'm repeating again. Make sure that your research question meets your research methodology, or your methods links with your research question. I indicated you cannot say true and then you say quantitative. It does not work like that. So we know the basics of the difference in your research design. You know, there's qualitative, there's quantitative, and we know that in qualitative, they tell us that no, it's about understanding, it's about words, it's about images, interpreting. Then in quantitative, it's about predictions of relations, man-made, it's done in a man-made setting. The questions are narrow because you need to ask and get to that answer. It's deductive, it's numeric, it's interpreted by comparing with prior research, predictions. So those are the two basics that we already know. Now we've included in here the verbs that you can use in stating your research question or your intent, you know? And like I said earlier on, in terms of your question directive, that in qualitative, we don't use the question, the why prompt, but the why prompt is used in quantitative. So the same as keywords of intent that are used in your research. You know, words like factors, you can't say it's a quantitative study that explores factors. Factors, it means they're measurable. So it can be qualitative, right? Explore is qualitative. Generate, you develop, you create. Causes, it's quantitative because you can measure. Relationship, you can measure between this and that. Influence and the effects. Let me say this, by the word relationship in this instance, we don't mean relationship when it's used in a psychological way. I know with psychology and social work and humanities, let me say that relationship can be both quanti and quali, where we can measure the constructs in psychology, and then we can also explore the relating in terms of social relations. I know that, right? So you need to be very clear when you use words that can go in both quanti and quali. Here we indicate different types of research approach with the different methods that goes with that particular approach. So you will see this as well. For instance, in quantitative, they're advising us that the method that you can use for that particular research is experiment, surveys. In qualitative, ethnography, critical studies, granite theory. Those are your methods that you can use. In mixed method, exploratories and explanatories. They have analytical as well, where you can analyze studies and do critical reviews of particular studies. And yesterday, I have read an article that speaks to, because of COVID-19, thank you, COVID-19, it speaks to survey, online survey as a qualitative tool. Online surveys as a qualitative tool. And we know that surveys usually are quantitative. So now people are coming up with new means and new ways of collecting data to more people qualitatively using a survey. So now when you write and you use a survey as a qualitative tool, you need to have backup and indicate studies that has proven, like I just told you one now, that a survey is not necessarily anymore a quantitative method anymore, but it can be qualitative. The reason why, or quantitative, they never had interviews, but they brought interviews into quantitative as well, and now they've joined, and now we are calling them in using them in the mixed method. So now research is forever evolving. That's why you don't do things like myself, where I'm using a 2014, at least 2014 is not that old, but you don't use 2014 material, because if you're going to use articles, old article, anything, colleagues, anything older than you is old, right? So don't use literature that was written in 1978, unless it's seminal work, right? Seminal work, we mean it's the first work that has written about that. And then you want to refer to it, not to use it to guide your study, but you want to refer to it to show how your study was shaped. And through time, that argument was shaped by that study of 1968 or 1970 what. So we usually say the rule of thumb is the material that you use must be 5 years or younger. If you get a supervisor or a lecturer who is more lenient, they will tell you that it can be 10 years, right? But more than 10 years, no, it is now 2021. So in other words, 2019. But 2018, anything below 2018 is old. So with me, my students know 5 years or 4 years. So anything that's more than that is too old. So different research design, like I indicated, you have your approaches. Some call it methods. Now, this is where you need to be very awake. Your lecturers might have preference of certain words or certain names, right? Please don't fight with them. Do what they are asking you and call them what they are asking you to call them. With my students, they know I call them approaches. Quantitative is an approach. Qualitative is an approach. Mixed methods an approach. You get other colleagues, like Professor Ngulube, he calls these methods. It's fine. That's his understanding, and that's how he speaks to his students. That's fine. It's a method. That's fine. And then you get others that will call them I don't know what, but that's fine. So that's why you'll read books, and then you'll see in the books and in articles, different authors call them different names. So that is fine. Just remember that should you choose a side, stick to your side. If you call them approaches, call them approaches. Preferably at this age that you are at, I'm assuming that honors and postgrad, I know that you can be young at heart. That's why you have registered for your postgrad. And I'm talking to you as in young, because of young in terms of the level of the education that you are doing now, not necessarily because of your chronological age. Do what your lecturer, your supervisor is asking you to do. If she says approach, then do to approach. If he says methods, then do to methods, okay? So 3 approaches: quantitative, qualitative, mixed methods. And I call them methods now. They call them approaches. So potato. So various methods. We have case studies like I indicated here. So surveys, ethnography, bibliography, action research, just know which approaches do they fall. And I will show you now what Professor Ngulube has made life easy for us. You will meet Professor Ngulube if you have not met him. Just tell him I said hi, but don't tell him or I refer to him a lot. So we have various research techniques. Remember, you have your approach, you have your method, and you have your techniques. Techniques are things that you're going to do to collect data. So you can observe, you can have interviews, you can send a questionnaire, you can have focus groups, you can review documents. Those are techniques. You have your approaches, you have your methods, and you have your techniques. Here is Professor Ngulube's beautiful table. He updated it. He tells us there that there are 3 paradigms. I don't know if you don't cover paradigms at postgrad dips and then at honors. However, if you do, there are paradigms. Paradigms is a view of lens of viewing the truth at that particular time. How do you see it? We have realism, pluralism, and constructivism, which evolved, and now they are positivist, pragmatist, and interpretivist. I know you've heard about the positivist and interpretivist. Then you see, he calls them methodology. There he is. No? He says methodology. And I call these ones approaches, remember? So he says there are 3 methodologies. I call them 3 approaches: quantitative, mixed method, and qualitative. And he says there are approaches or designs. I call everything the design. He says no, the design comes here. That's fine. Approaches or methods, as I call them. There's a survey, experimenting, and case study. These are just examples. And all these 3 falls under quantitative. And he says for mixed method, your approach or your methods is explanatory, exploratory, embedded, and then there's been improvement on embedded. Some don't call it embedded anymore. And then there's qualitative. And qualitative, he gives us more examples there: case study, ethnography, phenomenology, and grounded theory. Let me drink some water. And then he tells us that there are methods. I call them techniques of how to collect data. And these techniques, as you can see in that table, they can go anywhere. You just have to make sure that you use the appropriate ones. You must use the appropriate ones. Questionnaires. Yes, there is a questionnaire in qualitative. There is a questionnaire in quantitative. There is a questionnaire in mixed method. The proof is in the design of that questionnaire, whether it is quanti, quali, or mixed. So there are various types of interviews. There is observation. There is artifacts, what I called images on that other slide. Because of right now, you're having people who are doing, archaeologists, they use artifacts. Ethnographists, they use artifacts. And you need to reflect on your study. So now this is what I meant by stick to your lane. Or let me say there's two group. Oh, and Zulu group. So what is it in English? Stay on your lane. Let's just leave it there. Stay on your lane. So if you chose quantitative, stay on your lane. We know the paradigm for quantitative is positivism, realism, positivism, and then the methods or the approaches, it's surveys, experiment, and case study. So don't go and say experimenting, and you're saying you used qualitative and methodology on your approach. Don't do that. Remember the house that you are building? Remember the house plans? Remember the hotel rooms? Remember where you must escape if there's an emergency? You go the wrong way, you fail. So the same thing with your research. You say quantitative and you tell us about ethnography. You say experimenting, you said quantitative, and you tell us about qualitative. There's a disjuncture there. Something is not correct. It's a fail. And this is what makes researchers fail, by the way. When the method does not speak to what is happening. So stay in your lane. Play and you learn. Remain in your lane. Namutsile, skafatsile. Okay, after the dancing, yo. When you collect that data or generate that data, the techniques we talked to, observation, non-participatory, conversation, all of this are means of you to collect your data. Think of you going to a restaurant. When you enter your restaurant, well, COVID-19, no thank you to COVID-19 because we don't go to restaurants anymore as we would like to go to restaurants. But when you go to restaurants, those of you who manages to go to the restaurant, when you enter, you are shown a seat, okay? That's your way. You are shown a site where you're going to sit. You're going to sit, then you're going to sit wherever, or you choose your own site, you sit wherever. Right? And then you get your menu. And your menu is divided into 3 parts. Well, lately there's even 4 or 5, depending on what restaurant you're going to. But be that as it may, the 4 and 5 falls under this basic 3 because the menus must have this basic 3. I don't know what kind of a restaurant might not have this basic 3. The first one is the breakfast section, the lunch section, and the dinner section. So you must choose your approach after you have sat down. What is your approach for filling your stomach? Because the aim is for you to be full. I get the purpose is to go to the restaurant with the aim of removing your hunger, quenching you quench your thirst, but you remove your hunger. That's why you're going to the restaurant. Well, of course, you can go to the restaurants to try to impress Cynthia, but at the end of the day, the aim is to eat. Right. So you must choose your approach. You choose breakfast. What Gulliver calls methodology. Breakfast, I call it the approach. You choose breakfast. Now, after you selected your breakfast, you must choose the methods. What Gulliver calls approaches. Because of under your approach, your breakfast, there are different dishes there, right? There is, I don't know, English breakfast. There is muesli. There is hash brown and egg. There is traditional whatever breakfast. So now there are different plates there, methods to eat, to choose from. There is soup, okay? Different methods for you to choose from. Now you must choose After you selected your method, you must now select your technique. Technique is how are you going to eat it. Right? Yes, it can include standing up, upside down, on your, hanging upside down. I don't know. It's been long since I've been to a restaurant. COVID-19 has taught us people do strange things. You select breakfast, you select soup, approach, breakfast, soup, method. Now you must choose your techniques. How are you going to collect your data? How are you going to collect the soup to go into your stomach to fill the aim and the purpose? There it's lying in front of you. Techniques. Then you choose a knife and a fork to eat soup. You see that there's something is wrong here. Something is wrong. How are you going to eat soup with a fork and knife? How are you going to do that? It's a fail. And yet you took Cynthia there. You wanted to impress Cynthia. Cynthia will run away. Are you? Wait. Katlaka isiwa di ka bontshiwa metlholo. Because of there is an appropriate technique to collect data to eat your soup. It's called a tablespoon. And perhaps if it's not there, a teaspoon, but then it's a teaspoon, so it's a wrong method as well. That's why you have to even explain in your research whether it's semi-structured interview or open interview. Because all that also it feeds into your methodology. You cannot say it's an open interview and where it's quantitative. It doesn't. So you cannot use a teaspoon for a soup. It doesn't. It's a teaspoon, a tablespoon, or even the soup spoon. Better. It's for the soup. So you choose correctly. You've chosen your approach. You've chosen your method. Then choose appropriate techniques as well. Then we move to your data analysis section as well. Then there you can tell us how you're going to analyze your data. You're going to, if it's interviews, you're going to read them and highlight where you think or you identify your themes. Then you put different colors. It's called color coding, right? Or you're going to use Atlas TI, computer software. You're going to use In Vivo. You're going to use SPSS for quantitative. What is it that you're going to do to collect your data, to analyze your data, to make sense of your data? So there are different types of analysis tools, analysis mechanisms that are out there. You need to select the one that is appropriate. And then again, you cannot say you're going to use SPSS when you said it's qualitative. SPSS is for quantitative. Atlas TI, when you said quantitative, it doesn't work like that. Your analysis as well must be appropriate with the techniques, because it is the techniques that are going to give you data. So your analysis must be appropriate to the techniques so that you can be able to analyze your data. Okay, color coding and developing themes. So at the end of the day, you'll have this, like we did an example of a restaurant where you took Cynthia. I don't know who this Cynthia is. It's just the name that comes. I think it's a simple name. Or maybe I must say Rosanna or Diana, like Michael Jackson. I must increase my vocabulary. Or where Cynthia takes Peter, because of women take men out as well. It's not a hegemony. We don't live in hegemonies anymore. right? So what, how, and where are you going to gather your data? So those participants, how are you going to select them? You said 2 nurses. How are you going to select those 2 nurses, the target group? Who are they and why? Why them? Why these ones and not those ones? Because here you are, you have a room full of doctors who contracted COVID from assisting at hospital. So, but why those 2, not the others? You must have reasons of selecting those, right? How did you select them and why? Who did you exclude and why? Remember I said, it's your choice, Pella. If you say I'm going to focus on women leaders, it's your choice. It's women leaders. You are not interested in men leaders. You are interested in women leaders. And if you're interested in women leaders of the ages between 21 and 35, it's your choice. Tell us why. Why them? But no one can come and say, but the why not those ones between 45 and 58? That's not your interest. Your interest is in the young ones, or vice versa. And then you excluded those ones because why? And you know the reasons. You see, when you do research, don't crack your head in trying to come up and think, what is the research reason for this? You already have the reasons. Put it down, and we will help you to make it sound empirical and have sound research sound. Because you already have the reason. You know why you prefer red to pink, or why you like pink than black. You know why. Tell us the reasons. Right? How many interviews, if it's interviews you're going to conduct, how many questionnaires are you going to send? How many participants? How will this questionnaire that you're going to send look like? How are you going to distribute them? All of this is your design. All of this is your design. At the end of the day, your research should look like this. At the end of the day, it should look like that. Ooh, look at my spelling of title there. Remember, in between there's reading. Okay, remember we talked about your literature review. It will inform you on that, and so this is just the spine of what your research should look like. Remember, there must be literature section just below your title there. But the good and the truth is, as you know, literature permeates all throughout, because you don't read only for chapter 2 and then you don't write anything about literature in the other sections. Data collect techniques need not necessarily be 3, 4, 5. They can be 2, preferably more than 1. The reason is for triangulation. And when we talk about triangulation, we don't mean 3, right? Triangulation is a skill of checking the authenticity of the data, or the credibility, not authenticity, but the credibility of data. So it can be 2 types of sources that speaks to 1, 2 types of informers that speaks to 1 source of information, or title, or title, or question. So it can be interviews and focus group. It can be an interview and questionnaire. It can be a survey and focus group. So, but the aim is to get to more than one sources to verify the information that you have, because there will be a disjuncture if the information does not correlate. So triangulation does not necessarily mean 3. It means verification process. Then importantly as well, you need to indicate the value of your research, the money, the machanku of your research, the pounds, you know, the rands, what do they call them? The Mandelas or the Randelas, whatever, the money. That's the significance of your study, because you are doing this to indicate, to contribute the significance of your study. And you must specify its significance where and what, right? And for who is this significance going to apply, or is going to be more of benefit? Who are they benefiting? Remember the purpose statement is about high school principals. Remember my problem? What made me do this study? It is because I heard, maybe I read, what the Minister of Education said about performance in rural schools and qualification. By the way, this example I'm doing about the minister doing that, it's just a phantom. No, she never said that. I'm just making an example by something that is tangible. She, however, did indicate that district managers should be appointed on merit, not on allegiance. She did indicate that. So, but in my example, she said whatever she said on TV whenever I saw, whatever the time that I saw her, and then she said that high schools are not performing in rural areas because of principals' management. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said the purpose of this study is to explore high school experiences of high school principals management in rural setting. And I said with the aim of highlighting the contextual factors. Remember, I said that. Now, what is the significance of my study? What is the money of my study after I've done it? I now have the contextual factors, and I'm now going to highlight them. I'm going to publish them. I'm going to workshop, and I'm going to say to the minister, look, these are the factors that makes the high schools in rural settings not to be able to perform. Now, that's the significance of the study. And I'm going to show her what I found. And I'm going to say, come up with suggestions from them, say, for you to deal with this, that there must be more stuff. Remember my objectives? Remember? There were questions like, what is the staff complement? What are the qualifications of the teachers there? What are the qualifications of the principals? I'm going to say, no, look, of the schools that I sampled, actually, 15 of those are not qualified. They have junior JSOC. What is that? When they left school by before grade 12, right? And then they just stayed in the teaching system, so they have experience, but they don't have qualifications. So they don't have management qualifications. So this is what you need to do. You need to beef them up, because you can't fire them. You need to beef them up. Make more management trainings for them. Isn't there something that the basic Ministry of Education can do to encourage, because some of them, they are young, to encourage these teachers, these principals to go and study further for an honors, like you're sitting here, or for a PG dip, you know? Look, look at the staff complement. In a rural setting, there's multi-grades, you know. So one teacher must teach so many classes. So that's why they are not being able to perform. Why don't you hire more staff? Oh, but look at the qualification of the staff. So these are the things that I'm highlighting what the principals are going. That's the significance. That's the money, the value of my research into that topic. Yeah, metric, pass rate, yeah, 19, whatever. I had this, and I chose a title. So that's my contribution. So that's who's going to benefit from my study. So now when you write, no matter the fact that they gave you those topics, when you write it, think in terms of what will be the benefit of the study. And you already know, that's why you chose it. Remember, I said internalize, don't just choose because your friends are choosing. Because I know how we are as people and how we were as students at times. You know, we want to go where our friends are. We are social beings. Despite COVID says social distancing. So you must social distance and have your own mind and say, hey, my mind, why am I selecting this study? All right, colleagues. Kia leboga.